This conference will now be recorded.
Ready?
Yes. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Leland, call the roll, and just so that you know, Danny Mitchell is excused, but he is online.
Councilmember Courier,
Here.
Councilmember Hollinshead. Here. Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell is excused. Mayor Pro Tem Walczak.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem, supported by Hollinshead. Any discussion? Okay, Leland, go ahead.
Councilmember Courier,
Aye.
Councilmember Hollinshead. Aye. Mayor Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walczak.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Are there any modifications to the agenda this evening? No? Approval of the minutes, any, and this is the regular and closed session of May 19th, just so you know. Any corrections, additions? Okay, that stand is printed. We're down to 5 public comment. Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items shall be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during a council meeting that citizens are allowed to address the council. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, and online comments will be accepted after in-person comments are completed, and all comments should be directed to the council and not to the audience. Anyone in the audience?
Another full house tonight.
Steve? Yeah. Public comments, so I'm closing that. We have no public hearing. So we're to 7, consent agenda. A, bills to be allowed in the amount of $822,735.48 and authorize Mayor Johnson and Clerk Soik to sign the warrant. B, approve the 2025 tax rate request and authorize Mayor Johnson and Clerk Soik to sign the document. And C, receive and file the 2024 Park Family Foundation annual accounting of events.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem moved, supported by Hollinshead. Any discussion? Leland?
Councilmember Hollinshead. Aye. Mayor Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walczak.
Aye.
Councilmember Courier.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now we are to presentations. So everyone's, I see Warren and Roger. So this presentation is on the municipal bond process, and Dickinson Wright and MFCI are online. So we have Warren and Steve.
Steve DeClaudio is joining us.
Okay.
He's part of the MFCI team.
Okay.
And you guys, I want to apologize. I can't get my camera to work. So I'm doing my best to fix it.
We'll have Roger start then.
Okay, Roger, we'll start this off with you if that's okay.
Yes, no, that's great.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Really happy we can be with you here tonight. As was stated, my name is Roger Sweats. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Dickinson Wright, and we serve as what's kind of commonly called bond counsel in these public finance transactions. And as bond counsel, we take the city from start to finish with all of the legal aspects of the process. So that includes consultations as to the best ways to issue the bonds, and whatever other questions the city might have as we go through the process, drafting all of the resolutions, overseeing the bond sale process, and then drafting closing documents. And so what I'm going to do here tonight is give just a brief overview of the legal process for the bond issue. And then Warren and his team at MFCI handles the financial aspects of the transaction. And I'll let Warren speak to the particulars of their role and process issues from the financial perspective after that. So we've had some initial conversations with the city, and we'll have a few more, but that will lead to the first legal step in the process, which is to adopt what we commonly call a notice of intent resolution. And that resolution does two things. It sets a maximum dollar amount that can be issued for the bond issue, and then gives a narrative description of what can be financed with the bond issue. So sets those limits, how much can be issued and what it can be used for. And then it approves a notice to the public of the city's intent to issue bonds that'll be published in the newspaper and carries some referendum rights with it that we have to allow a 45-day period to pass. Then after that publication, before the bond issue can be closed. One thing I will mention is that resolution sets a maximum dollar amount for the bonds. It doesn't obligate the city to borrow that amount. It just simply opens the door to go that high. And we understand that the city already has bids in hand for the project, so we can zero in pretty close on the dollar amount in that resolution. But we probably will, as Warren had said on a call earlier, we'll round up on that number just to give a little bit of leeway in case there's any fine tuning on the dollar amount the city wants to do before the bonds are sold. The final dollar amount will be approved by the council later on after we go through that publication process. Most likely at the August meeting, there will be a bond resolution then adopted by the city, or at least are presented to you for consideration. That'll be a larger, more extensive resolution that lays out all the legal parameters for the bond issue. What we're planning on at this point is what we call a competitive public offering for the bond issue. That's the way that the bonds will be sold, as opposed to selling them to a bank. And Warren can address this in more detail. I think it's the opinion that the overall most cost-effective way to issue these bonds, given the dollar amount and length of maturity, will be that competitive public issue, which means that before the sale date, there will be a notice of sale published in a national newspaper called the Bond Buyer that will basically let the entire bond buying world bid on the city's bonds if they're interested. And that'll be published a week before the day and time selected for sale. In the bond resolution, we will name authorized officers, which will probably include the mayor, the city manager, finance director, so that when we get to that bond sale date, they will then be empowered to award the bids for the bond. So at a date and time that we set, we'll take bids. That happens online these days, and at the given time, a website called Parity will basically populate with all the bids that are received for the bonds. This is managed by an organization in Detroit called the Municipal Advisory Council, which will also be able to receive bids by email. But these days, most of them come online through this website called Parity. And then they will calculate which of those bids provides the lowest true interest cost to the city. And that's a very specific method of calculating interest rate, taking into account all the bidding parameters of premiums and discounts and other things that can be bid by purchasers to get you what is the bottom line lowest interest cost bid for the city. And by state law, the city has to accept the bid with the lowest true interest cost, which is, what you want to do anyway. But by law, that has to happen. So, for instance, you could, if there were a local bidder on the bonds, and that's not likely since this is all done by national underwriters these days, you would not be allowed to favor the local bidder. You have to go with the lowest true interest cost. And then, roughly 2 to 3 weeks after that, we will we'll draft all the closing documents, get those to the city, and roughly 2 or 3 weeks after that, we will have a closing, and then the city will have money in hand. I am happy to answer questions, but maybe before we get to questions, I'll turn it over to Warren and let him kind of fill in the rest of the picture with the financial side.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to let you know MFCI is grateful that you've invited us to the table. We're thrilled to be working with Rachel. Our role, as Roger said, is on the financial side of the transaction. We are your fiduciary. First of all, I want to back up and just let you know that we are regulated by the SEC and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. Our role is as fiduciary to the city, which means that we have a duty of loyalty and care to the city, and we place the city's needs and objectives ahead of our own. We work with the city in connection with the timing, the scheduling, and the marketing of the proposed bonds. Today we had a very productive call with Rachel and Steve Schultz, where we are already in the process of preparing a draft time schedule for the proposed financing based on the adoption of the documents that Roger talked about. We will be working with the city in connection with the preparation of the offering circular, or what is referred to as the preliminary official statement. The preliminary official statement is all of the information deemed necessary for an investor to make an informed decision. We work with the city in connection with the preparation of that document, and that document is not only used to market the bonds with the investors, but it's used to obtain a rating from one of 3 nationally recognized rating services. The city currently has an outstanding rating of AA- from Standard & Poor's. We don't believe in reinventing the wheel, and will probably reach out to Standard & Poor's in connection with this financing. It's important to point out that Standard & Poor's changed their rating criteria, or updated their rating criteria in September of last year. Based on our cursory review, we don't anticipate any changes, but it's important to remember that the rating committee, has discretion. We can run the city through their criteria and get a pretty good indication of what that rating is going to be, but the rating committee has some discretion to move that rating either up a notch or down a notch. But right now, we're not anticipating that to change, even with the new criteria. So during the referendum period that Roger discussed, again, we will be working with the city to prepare that document and to prepare them for the call with the rating agencies. We request, the questions to the call in advance of the call, so we'll have an opportunity to work with Rachel and Steve and Anna, prior to the call, and get them prepared. The rating is a very, very important component to the financing. It's really where the rubber meets the road. The higher the rating, the lower your interest cost. And the city has a very, very respectable rating, as I said, of AA minus. And we're looking forward to taking the city through the process, sell the bonds, and work with the underwriter in connection with the delivery. Today, we discussed various sizing and structuring up options, with the city. We have not yet prepared those, but we will. It's anticipated that the cost to be financed will total approximately $3 million plus issuance expenses. Issuance expenses provide for the payment of all costs associated with the financing. It would be the preparation of the official statement, the rating fee, bond counsel's fee, our fee, but the most significant component to the financing is the underwriter's discount. And when the bonds are sold, as Roger said, a notice of sale will be published in the bond buyer. It's widely distributed amongst known purchasers and active purchasers of municipal bonds in the country. And that notice has to be published at least 7 days prior, to the sale of the proposed bonds. But the bonds will be sold at a date and time certain. And we are available and talk to investors prior to the sale in the event there are any questions or concerns they may have. We do not anticipate any concerns at this point. Frankly, we're actually very excited about selling this bond issue. The Michigan market has been flooded with a lot of school financings that are secured by the state's school bond loan fund. So they have the same underlying credit. Bonds that, provide, a different credit, are highly sought after. Michigan bonds are tax exempt from federal, state, and local income taxes. And so we're really very excited about the sale. I have to tell you, the last time I was in Alpena was for the summer Michigan Municipal Executive Conference. And you guys should be very proud. You have, a wonderful, wonderful community, on Lake Huron. And, these are appealing to municipal bond buyers. So we're very excited about moving the credit forward. So, that's a very brief kind of summary, of our role in the financing. But I'm happy to entertain any questions that anyone else may have. And again, you guys, I am really sorry. I'm better at municipal finance than I am with technology. And I thought I did all the right things. I want you to know that I showered, I shaved, I put on a new nice starch shirt, and Roger and Rachel and Steve can attest to that because they saw me earlier, but it was a different platform.
Sometimes switching between those platforms can be problematic. So Warren, don't blame yourself too much.
You're very gracious, Rachel. I certainly appreciate that.
And Warren, I just take great pride in the fact that this old dog could do better with technology than you did.
Okay, Roger, you've sufficiently shamed me. So,
well, no, that was more a comment on me, but
But no, I am impressed. I mean, I even got on early and downloaded the app, and I said, "Oh, this will be fabulous." But in any event, please forgive me. But again, just know how grateful MFCI is to be at the table, and we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the kind words about our city. And we do have a question. So the Mayor Pro Tem has a question for you.
Please excuse my ignorance. This is my first time ever being involved with bonds. So, point of fact, I don't know what they are. And I don't know, is it a synonym for a loan?
Well, it really is. And if you think about your home mortgage, or you think about a car loan, it's a glorified, installment purchase contract.
Okay.
But in Michigan, the only way that you're allowed to incur debt is through the issuance of bonds. And all that is a securitization of your promise to pay. And each maturity, unlike a mortgage or a car loan where you have one fixed principal amount and you pay, principal and interest, monthly, which is, for what, for, a mortgage and your car, this is something, that the city would pay on a semi-annual basis. Once every year, you will pay principal, and every 6 months, you'll pay interest on the outstanding bonds. So,
Okay.
but the difference is that instead of the bank holding your entire mortgage or your entire auto loan, the underwriter will buy your bonds, and they will sell each maturity to different market segments. There are some people that like to buy further out the curve or on the short end of the curve. And so the underwriters get to manage that part of the process, but they buy the bonds, up front, and then sell each maturity. We're currently contemplating a 15 or 20-year amortization period. We really don't know what that's going to look like. We're going to get back to Rachel and Steve within the next couple of days based on our estimate of current market rates given the city's current AA- rating. So when you think of municipal bonds, just think of it, like a mortgage or a car loan.
Okay.
And Warren, can I add, just so the rest of council knows, that governments can't go to the bank and borrow money. This is how we finance things.
With one exception, they can, and this is really in Roger's wheelhouse, but I'll seize this one. They on smaller financings, like copiers, police cars, a backhoe, something that you would finance over a shorter period of time. You can finance them with installment purchase obligations or installment purchase agreements or obligations. Those are used interchangeably. And that's something that, would be authorized by council, just like these bonds are going to be authorized by council. But Rachel and Anna would have the ability to take the bonds, to your local banks and say, hey, we want to finance 3 new police cars, and here's the cost. And would you be interested in purchasing that loan for your portfolio? And then they would provide the city with a rate, and the city would assign those payments over to the bank and pay it just like they're paying the bonds on these projects.
And I would just add to some extent, whether it's a note or a bond is kind of form over substance. And we could take this bond issue and sell it to a local bank. What you can't do is just go to a bank and get a loan on the bank's paperwork without going through all the process, that we've talked about here tonight. We have to go through the process, but the bond could be sold to a local bank. But what Warren and his team do is they look at what the market interest rates look like for bank debt versus the rates in this kind of underwritten bond sale that we've been talking about. And so it's their opinion, which will be refined as we go forward here, but it's initially their opinion that the underwritten bond sale provides a lower overall cost to the city.
Indeed, but I think what's more important here is that a lot of the banks, their investment horizon tends to be much shorter than the municipal bond market. I think the ideal range, for a bank is anywhere from 1, to 7 years. There are a few buyers that are willing to go out longer, but their cost of funds tends to be much, much higher. Now, there was a period of time where, banks were aggressively trying to meet their community reinvestment acts. I think the tax environment and cost of funds was such that they were very, very aggressive buyers, and banks could provide a better interest rate than the bond market could. But that is no longer the case, and hasn't been the case, Roger, for 7 years?
About 2 years now, 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was longer than that. But, I've been at MFCI for a while, and we just haven't been selling them. They kind of, fell out of favor. And I think Roger's probably right. It's been shorter than 7 years.
Yeah, there was a time period a few years ago. You might all remember when that California bank failed, and then there was a New York bank shortly thereafter, Signature Bank, that also failed. And part of the reason they failed was they had too much fixed rate, non-liquid kind of debt. And so that really caused the banks to reassess what they were doing, and bank rates went up quite a bit at that point in time. So yeah, we just don't do as much of it anymore. There, every once in a while, there's a situation that fits. But I think Warren's colleague, estimated today that the interest rate might be a full percentage point higher on a bank purchase of this bond issue as opposed to what you're going to get in the marketplace.
Does anyone have any other questions?
It's very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
So we look forward to the next few months working with you. But thank you for coming and informing us on the process. We appreciate it.
You're entirely welcome. And Rachel has our contact information. And if there's any, questions that you may think of, don't hesitate to call us.
Okay. Roger, Warren, and Steve, thank you for joining us this evening. Have a good night.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night. We're down to announcements. The city is seeking an individual to fill a vacancy on the local officers compensation committee for a 6-year term. Somebody doesn't fill that pretty soon, I will. Can I? Okay.
If you know of anyone.
So if anybody knows anybody to send our way for that committee, it's a once-a-year committee. It's easy, but it's
2 hours a year.
it's necessary.
It's the 6-year thing that throws people off. I think.
It's a
Okay.
6-year term, but if they don't serve 6 years, we're not going to put them in jail. Maybe that's what they think.
Maybe.
So estimated 12-hour commitment.
Yeah, in the 6 year period.
In 6-year period.
Yeah,
total.
6 years.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I have no mayoral proclamations. We're down to report of officers, boards, and committees. Danny, do you have any information on any of your boards or committees you want to share? Maybe not. Okay. Okay. Kevin, do you have anything? And I don't have anything this time either. We will next month or so.
I attended a zoning board of appeals. So it was really interesting because we have people in certain parts of Alpena whose land isn't always even and flush. So this family requested a 10-foot fence, 8 foot instead of 6 feet, just where the land dipped. And we okayed that. And for the rest of the property, we okayed the standard 6 feet. And we've done a little visit over to Little Red. And the whole team, we went on site and we were able to see it for ourselves and look at and talk about potential approaches, is the way I'll put it, for Little Red. And I think I'm going to leave the report on the Lake Huron, because Rachel, you spoke Huron forever. I'll leave that.
Oh, Lake Huron forever.
I don't know that that's a committee.
No.
Right, okay.
No,
All right.
it isn't.
So that's it for me. Thank you.
Did you have anything?
I don't have any.
Danny is back, and I don't know. Danny, can you hear me?
I'm still
Okay.
trying to figure this thing out.
Okay, and I hope you're doing well, but do you have anything to report on your committees?
The biggest thing was the emergency management last Friday. It's like this with Senator Slotkin and such like this. A lot of good information came out from the first responders side and others. She is going to be working fairly hard to get us the funding that we need for reimbursements like this. But as she said, fill it out, fill it out, fill it out. And so hopefully those that expend the monies for warming shelters and all these other expenditures that will be paid for through FEMA and such. So, but it was a good meeting, and I was glad I was there.
Yeah, we're glad you were there as well. Thank you for attending that.
Carol looked better than I did, so that's all I can say.
Thank you, Danny. Oh, that's very nice of you.
Oh,
Oh, we'll see you next time, Danny.
Thank
Yes.
you.
We have no communication or petitions or unfinished business, so we're down to new business. It's fiscal year 2026 budget. Do anybody have questions, concerns? Do we just want to get on to the resolution?
I did let Leland know about the one correction, just a typo, but I don't think we need any official action on that. And all of those resolutions are within the budget document.
Go to them right now. So in your packet, we have to adopt the fiscal year 2026 budget resolution number 2025-05. That is on page 26 in your packet. If somebody wants to make a motion, or do you want me to make the motion?
I am not on the page,
Okay.
or I would.
So I will make a motion that we adopt the fiscal year 2026 budget resolution number 2025-05.
Second.
So Mayor Johnson made the motion to adopt resolution 2025-05. Mayor Pro Tem supported. Any discussion? Okay, Leland?
Perfect.
Mayor Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walczak,
Aye.
Councilmember Courier,
Aye.
Councilmember Hollingshead. Motion carried.
In your packet on page 27, I'll go there. We have resolution number 2025-06. And this is to adopt the fiscal year 2026 appropriation resolution number 2025-06. And that will be my motion.
I will second.
And Courier support. So the motion is by the mayor to adopt fiscal year 2026 appropriations resolution number 2025-06, and Courier supported. Any discussion? No. Leland?
Mayor Pro Tem Walchuk,
Aye.
Councilmember Courier,
Aye.
Councilmember Hollingshead, Mayor Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And then the last thing that we have to do is to adopt the amended fiscal year 2025 budget.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So Mayor Pro Tem made the motion to adopt the amended fiscal year 2025 budget. Councilperson Hollins had supported. Any discussion? Leland?
Councilmember Courier,
Aye.
Councilmember Hollingshead, Mayor Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walchuk.
Aye.
Thank you, Leland. Number 2B is the change order number 1 for 2024 Long Rapids Road resurfacing project. And Steve Schultz, the city engineer, will give this report.
Right. In August 2024, the city awarded the Long Rapids Road resurfacing project to Bolin Asphalt Paving in East Tawas, Michigan, in the amount of $601,129.60. This project includes removing the existing asphalt surface and 2 inches of the existing gravel and repaving it with a thicker layer of asphalt. This project is between Bagley Street and about 500 feet beyond Arbor Lane. The Long Rapids Road project construction method uses a unique piece of construction equipment called a mill to remove the asphalt prior to installing a new layer of asphalt. This practice is lucrative due to the fast turnaround from time a street is closed until it's opened again. There are very few companies who have this machine within the state and none locally. The opportunity to have one available promoted staff to look at other streets within our system that could benefit from this resurfacing method and identified the following. You see them there. Huber Street, Ripley Street, and North 2nd Avenue. Staff requested prices from Bolin Asphalt Paving to resurface these streets using this process while the equipment is in town. This will save the city a large mobilization cost to bring the mill back into town at a later date to complete the work. The quote is attached from Bolin to complete the additional blocks of work. Other than requesting a small amount for mobilization and around town and additional traffic control, they are willing to extend the unit prices from the Long Rapids project. These prices are lower than we typically have received in the past due to the large scale of the project. Typically, the staff's base budget estimate for a block of resurfacing is approximately $35,000. All 3 of these streets are wider than typical and longer than a typical block for resurfacing. So for all these reasons, we believe these prices are fair to the city of Alpena. Adequate funding has been budgeted in the major street fund and is available for capital preventative maintenance projects such as these. Based on my review, I recommend the following motion that you see there. And if that is approved, I have one more motion.
Does anyone have any questions for Steve before we? And I just had one, and I asked Rachel, this comes out of this year's budget.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
And this is based on your review, correct? You recommend to approve change order number 1 for the 2024 Long Rapids Road resurfacing project with Bolin Asphalt Paving for the unit prices totaling $92,010 and authorize engineer Schultz, clerk Soik, and manager Smolinski to sign. I'll second.
Okay, the Mayor Pro Tem made the motion, and it was supported by Hollingshead to approve the change order number 1 for the 2024 Long Rapids Road resurfacing project with Bolin Asphalt Paving for the unit price totaling $92,010 and authorize engineer Schultz, clerk Soik, and manager Smolinski to sign. Any discussion? Leland?
Councilmember Hollingshead. Aye. Mayor Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walchuk.
Aye.
Councilmember Courier. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. And so with that, the contractor has not yet set their final schedule. However, we do anticipate the need for work during overnight hours. The portion of the work needed during this time is short in duration and should be no longer than 5 nights total and will be weather dependent. So for this reason, we are requesting a variance in the noise ordinance for the duration of the construction.
Does anyone want to make that motion? So I will make the motion to waive the noise ordinance for the duration of the construction operations on Long Rapids Road, Huber Street, and North Second Avenue and Ripley Street portions of this project.
Second.
Mayor made the motion, supported by Mayor Pro Tem, to waive the noise ordinance for the duration of the construction operations on Long Rapids Road, Huber Street, North Second Avenue, and Ripley Street portions of this project. Any discussion? Leland?
Mayor Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walchuk,
Aye.
Councilmember Courier, Councilmember Hollenshead. Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you, Leland.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
you.
Steve. Now we have Community Appreciation Day request. Kathy Hines, our Human Resource Director.
Ooh, this is the weirdest thing ever. I usually bring in a crowd, don't I? Okay.
What did you do to them?
I stopped him at the door. No, I did not. So we've always been fortunate to have an exceptional volunteer group and staff. But in light of the recent ice storm, we found out that our community is even more giving. And with that, we would like to hold an appreciation celebration for the entire community, including volunteers that went above and beyond during this time, but the entire community for supporting us all year long. And we would like to hold that on June 25th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the front lawn at City Hall, unless there's a rain event, and then we will come inside and celebrate up in council chambers. So with that, we are asking for a budget not to exceed $750. I've already done quite a little bit of research to see, how far that would take us, and it's certainly not going to be filet mignon, but we will make sure that the hot dogs are grilled perfectly. And we will also have some chips, and staff members will do some baked goods and such. So we did consult with Bill to be sure that we were able to do so. And you can see in the memo here, the purchase of coffee, food, etc. must be for a public, not an individual or private group for any purpose. And this is for the entire community, as we will make sure that we get it out there and everybody is welcome to come and join us in this celebration. We would also love for you to come, and I'm sure I'll be in contact with each of you at some point in time to discuss that further. So with that, I make the recommended motion to approve the allocation of the amount not to exceed $750 for the Community Appreciation Day on June 25th, 2025, unless you have a whole bunch of questions.
I'll move to approve the allocation of an amount to not exceed $750 for the Community Appreciation Day on June 25th, 2025.
Oh, second.
A motion by Helen said, supported by Mayor Pro Tem, to approve the allocation of an amount not to exceed $750 for the Community Appreciation Day on June 25th, 2025. Any discussion? Leland?
Mayor Pro Tem Walchuk,
Aye.
Councilmember Courier,
Aye.
Councilmember Hollenshead. Aye. Mayor Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you there.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second. Go ahead, 30. So Jenny would be happy if you.